who are the people that would sell their house to you. And there's going to be about 6 different types of people, right? These are called the 6 Ds of motivated sellers. Okay, so we'll go through them one by one, and then we'll chat about that. The idea here is that you're either going to have people dealing with death, people that are in debt, people that are dealing with disease, people dealing with the divorce, people that have damaged, destroyed, or distressed landlords or owners, and then finally people that go through downsizing. If you take a look at all those Ds, those 6 Ds, death, debt, disease, divorce, damage, and then downsizing, there's some sort of pain there. And this is important because when it comes to the negotiation and making decisions, there's a lot of research now that shows that psychologically, we don't actually make a decision unless it's emotional. Like we think we're being logical, but it's almost all based on emotions. Right? It's gone to as far as, I believe it's Harvard or Yale University, but they basically said that there's like research showing that's like 100%, it's all emotional, which is kind of scary. But we want to be empathetic to that, right? We don't want to just like push on their pain. I know some people will teach it this way that that's how you get a really low price, but specifically here in Winnipeg, which most of us are, a couple of people are from Edmonton there, but specifically here in Winnipeg, your brand is so important, right? You want to make it win-win, both for the seller who you're buying the house from and for your end buyer, right? You don't want to take profits from the seller and get it at such a low price that it leaves them in an even messier financial situation or whatever their D is, their stress. But you also don't want to increase your wholesale fee, how much you're actually going to charge to the buyer, so much that they can't make money. And the reason is, with Winnipeg being so small, all it takes is word to travel that you screwed someone over a few $1,000s on a wholesale deal, and then no one's going to want to do deals with you anymore, right? This is a big reason for like a lot of our wholesales. We're only charging like $3,000, $5,000, or $10,000. The most I've seen is like $20,000 or $25,000. That's because it was just like such an amazing land deal, if I remember properly. But you want enough meat on the bones, both for the seller to win and your end buyer to win. Okay, you can make it win-win. It's totally possible. It comes down to your negotiation skills. But aside from that, we'll go through the 6 Ds. So death is going to be, someone passed away. It could be a hoarder house. This is actually how I got my first property. It was a hoarder house. My neighbor had passed away. And then this is why I just started learning about like network with everyone. Start asking these questions. Start letting people know that you're in real estate. So I'm walking home, see this ambulance in front of my neighbor's house. And then, I just start chatting with the paramedics. And I'm like, oh, like what happens? Is everyone okay? And then they start telling me that, oh, like your neighbor passed away. I was like, oh, like that's too bad, right? And literally the next day, I seen this person walking around the house, taking measurements, and I was like, oh, I feel like this might be a contractor. So again, I start the conversation with them. I'm like, oh, like, are you measuring out the windows or something? Like, did you end up buying a place? And she's like, yeah, we actually bought the place and we're looking to do some renovations. We might flip it, we might keep it. From there, I kind of just built a relationship with this investor, found out they're from Vancouver, and what ended up happening is they ended up selling me the house privately, so I saved some money on some realtor fees. But the idea there is that death and having someone leave a hoarder house, that could be a huge mess for the family or for who's going to take over the estate, and you can come in and solve that problem. This is why those 6 Ds are so important, and we'll talk about how we structure your marketing to attract those 6 Ds or target those 6 Ds, I should say. Because if there's not enough pain, someone's not going to sell their house at that price that otherwise the house wouldn't move, right? They can't really put it to market because it's a hoarder house. We want to be empathetic to this, right? So when we're asking about the situation, someone says they pass away, of course, take a moment to be like, hey, sorry for your loss, and make sure that you're actually getting the feeling behind you actually care about this person, right? And there's ways where it might not be that easy, right? Especially when you're dealing with death, like it's a pretty heavy subject. One of the ways that I'll make sure that we stay empathetic is just repeating back what they say, right? Repeating back, like you say, hey, like what happened? Why do you guys have to sell the house? And then the person might be like, oh, my mom passed away. Like, okay, well, hey, sorry for your loss. Sorry that your mom passed away. I know it's a difficult time. Maybe we can work something out to make sure we help you with this, right? Because the last thing people want to do, and I worked in the insurance industry in the past, like the last thing people want to think about when their loved one has passed away is money, right? They actually want to mourn, and we can solve that problem by taking care of the finances for them, getting rid of this house, getting it at a price that makes sense for everyone, so that they can have the time to mourn, right? And you can study like all these negotiation tactics. I find that if you genuinely just like care and like put yourself in their position while you're talking to them, it transfers that you actually care. And that can make the difference between someone selling the house to you versus someone selling the house to someone else, to another wholesaler, right? So that's debt. Debt is another one. So debt is like maybe they can't afford the house anymore, right? Maybe they've remortgaged the house too many times. They got a line of credits maxed out on it. They got a bunch of credit cards, and the property is going to get, taken over by the bank. I always tell people, even our students, that hey, it's almost better that we take the property instead of the bank, because the bank is for sure going to get it at the lowest price. At least we can leave some money for the seller and make it that they walk away with something as opposed to just completely losing their house. Again, the big key here is making sure that you're empathetic to their situation, right? They're already boatloads of debt. This ended up happening when I bought a house. It was a bank foreclosure. And then I sent an assistant at the time to take possession of the house. I gave him the key. He's like, hey, just walk in there, take some photos of the meters. And he walks in, he calls me, hey, there's like people still here. I was like, oh, geez, what's going on? And we basically found out that the mom, who was like 97 years old, didn't know that the daughter had taken a bunch of line credits on the property. And that's why I was getting bank foreclosed. And she didn't tell the mom that I had bought the property. So it's kind of messed up. And, we had to get police there. And this was during winter time. So I did not want to be the guy that's like just going to kick out this old lady at like minus 45 degrees outside and have them like suffer like that. So I said, hey, like, no worries, we'll give you 7 days. You can move out. And they're actually like, again, because we're empathetic, they're kind enough. They did some repairs they didn't have to, and then they end up leaving. So debt is a big one. And especially now with rising interest rates, like some people might be in that situation, right? They just bought a house. Maybe they were in a bidding war in 2022, 2021, overpaid. And then now they forgot that they had a variable mortgage. And now they're just like drowning in debt, right? We might not be able to buy the house at the price they bought because they overbought. That's a them problem, not us problem. But we can at least solve some of that in that, hey, you got to buy this house at the price that makes sense for us and then solve a little bit of their debt problem, right? Maybe they'll lose some equity. It's all good. It's better than them just being stuck and losing all of it. Disease is another one. This is where we want to help others get what they want. Now, we can't solve the problem of their disease, but what we can do is essentially give them the time to spend time with family. These are going to be that situation where, someone gets diagnosed with cancer. Now they only have 3 to 6 months to live. If we take the house, we give them some cash, they can use that money to enjoy it with their family for the next few months, and at least they can have those memories, right? Again, be empathetic to the situation. Literally what I'll do is, if I know the situation a little bit ahead of time, before I kind of walk into the meeting, I'll literally put my hands, and I learned this from one of my producer friends, because this is what he does for, like, just to put you in that emotional state before recording a song. But if you know the situation ahead of time, what I'll do is I'll put my face in my hands, and then I'll try to put myself in their shoes, so that when I come in, I'm actually feeling as if, someone in my family passed away or someone has disease, and how would I feel if that was me on the other side of the table, right? With divorce, the problem here is that lawyers can draw out the litigation, right? The reality is that the best situation for two people going through a divorce, a couple, is that we just sell and deal with the house first and then deal with the lawyers. Because now you're just dealing with cash. It's a lot easier to split than like this whole war going down between the house. It can be very messy, right? So I think the first actual bird that I did, this was the second house I bought. Divorce was the situation, basically. So wife wasn't even living in the city anymore. Husband was trying to basically renovate the house. They're trying to do everything themselves. So basically they, I guess, watched too much HGTV, and the renovation took 2.5 years, and everything was shoddy. Everything was like not cut properly. The house was a mess, basically. And the guy basically took on more than he could chew. So we were able to come in and basically put an offer on the table and say, hey, like, we'd like to take care of this house. We'll take over. At least you guys can have a clean divorce and you guys can move on with your lives, right? Wife even flew in from Vancouver to sign the paperwork. It's essentially how like desperate they were at that point. And now, again, being empathetic, I was just kept being like, hey, like, sorry for your divorce is happening. Like, oh, you don't have to be sorry. It's my fault. It's okay. Like, this situation sucks. We want to help you guys as much as we can, but we do have to get the price at this price. So you do have to do some renovations. As you can see, the house needs this. It needs a new kitchen. Still needs a new bathroom. I just kept pointing out all the things messed up with the house. So we were able to get the house. We got it for 172 at the time. Right? It was assessed at like 202, I believe. Fifth one is going to be that damaged or destroyed or that distressed landlord, right? These can be the landlords that like, hey, their property got damaged completely. Maybe there's a fire. That fire sale could be an opportunity. And maybe it's just a landlord's like, hey, I don't want to deal with this anymore. They just want out of the game. Like, the house could even be in decent shape. They're just like, they just have the headache. They don't want to take these calls anymore. Maybe they don't have systems in their business, and they just want to get out of the landlord game, right? Again, want to be empathetic to the situation. You can repeat back what they're saying. Okay, like, what happened to the house? They're like, oh, like the last time just trashed it. Look what they did to the kitchen. They destroyed the bathroom. They even punched walls everywhere. I was like, okay, that seems like you had some terrible tenants. They clearly messed up the kitchen and the bathroom, and like, so it's messed up with how they punch walls everywhere, punch holes in the walls everywhere. And then finally, you have downsizing. Downsizing is a little bit easier to target in that physically on the outside, this is kind of the key. That one of the pieces I learned from one of my old mentors is that you want to look for houses with awnings. If you guys know what awnings are, they're like the attachment that covers windows. Usually awnings, from what I've experienced anyway, those homes are usually owned by older people that just haven't updated the house for a long time, right? You can easily replace those awnings or just get rid of them fully and then put new windows in, and then also the house looks great after. But it's these people that are a little bit older. Maybe they should be in an old folks home at this point, or maybe they have a 2-story house and they want to get a nice smaller tiny bungalow or condo living or assisted living, whatever it is. You can go far in helping them. Hey, like, we want to make sure we keep you safe. You're getting a little bit older. Maybe you don't want this 2-story house anymore. How about we even, I think, go as far as helping these people find another place to stay, right? So the idea there is with those 6 Ds, that's going to be what's called your ideal client avatar when it comes to a seller anyway. Next week, we'll talk about the ideal buyer avatar, but here's just finding out that seller. And this is where I find a lot of newer wholesalers make the mistake of having their marketing not match one of the 6 Ds. You can maybe combine 2, like death and disease can kind of go together, or like death and debt. But I just pick one to make your life so much easier. And then by doing that, your marketing targets that, right? So it's like, hey, and it's going to be your first line. It's that headline. I like to use Facebook because it's very easy to post, and you can get into different groups, and this is where you can just make them mass posts. But if you want to use as letters, that works as well. Like a letter and a Facebook post, I find it's very similar, right? It's just that a Facebook post can travel a lot faster than like you spending the manpower to put in these letters one by one. But you want to pick one of the 6 Ds and only one per letter type, right? So if it's debt, then you really want to push that, right? It's like, hey, are you drowning in debt? we'd love to help out and buy your house for cash. You're in the area. Here's the process that we do, right? You want the one target just because you don't want to advertise for death, divorce. You also don't want to advertise that if someone's a seller or a buyer or and a buyer, it just gets way too confusing. You're going to simplify your life by choosing one of the 6 Ds and really targeting that, right? So like last week, I was just targeting, distressed landlords. Like, hey, was your house damaged by some previous tenants? Are you tired of getting these midnight calls from your tenants? Are you tired of doing some renovations that you're proud of? And then 8 months later, your new tenant's destroyed. This sounds like you. I'd love to help. I'm a landlord myself. I don't mind dealing with these people. Let's chat on the phone if you're interested in getting a cash offer. And then there's the copy, basically. There's that letter or that Facebook post, right? By picking just one of the 6 Ds, it simplifies your life. And now you have a clear idea of what that person's going through, and you're just targeting that, right? Because again, you want to reverse engineer. If someone is in major debt, why would they want to sell? If someone is going through divorce, why would they want to sell? Right? And by answering that, and by putting yourself in their shoes, you can create that marketing content that hits home. So it has to be emotional, right? We have to at least pick up the pain a little bit, just so they get into a position where it makes sense to sell the house to you, not use a realtor, and do it privately, so that now you can pass that deal to someone else. You can solve their problem as a seller, and then you can solve the new buyer's problem that they don't have a good deal, right? And you hear this chat all around, right? Like I spend my days chatting with either investors, people who want to get into real estate, and everyone's like, oh, there's no good deals in MLS, right? It's not like it was in 2020, right? You actually have to put in a little bit more work to find those good deals, because they are hidden in the private market a little bit more now. That being said, because buyers are having a hard time finding good deals, if you could be the one to bring them a good deal, it just makes the job way easier, right? If you guys haven't, I highly suggest using Chat GPT. It just makes the job so much easier, especially if like you're finding some days you're like, oh, I want to make this marketing post for distressed landlords, but I don't know what to post. All good. I'll show you guys real quick how you can use Chat GPT to actually just start something to at least generate those leads. Because when you go back to the kind of mindset, the framework that I use, finding these leads is like fishing. I'm going to put in my marketing in the morning, put it out there, let the post do its thing, and then everyone who reads it, maybe I'll get even calls, and you'd be very surprised, right? The more consistent you can do that lead generation, that marketing for sellers, the better it's going to be. The more people you can meet in the real world that you just introduce yourself, hey, I do real estate. If you ever run into anyone that's looking to sell their house, maybe they're a landlord, they don't want to do it anymore, let me know. I'd love to give you a referral if I actually end up buying their house, right? Now, if you're going to make a referral system in your letters, don't say you're going to pay them a referral fee. You're breaking some of the SEC laws. What you want to do is you put them into a contest. So it's like, hey, if you're interested, or if you know anyone interested in selling their house privately, maybe they're a distressed landlord, maybe their house got trashed by tenants, they don't want to be doing real estate anymore. I'd love to come in and buy the house privately, give a cash offer. If I close a deal that you bring to me, I will put you in a draw to win up to $1,000, let's say. And by doing that, by saying up to, and it's also a draw, it makes it so that you're not actually offering a referral fee, right? Now, if only one person brings you a deal in that month, well, there's only one person in a draw. And I always say up to $1,000, because if I only make like $500 on a wholesale, or like even $5,000, I'm probably not going to give this person $1,000. But if I make $5,000, I don't mind, giving them even like $100 keg gift card that you can then write off for your marketing services, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's part of marketing. I gave someone a gift card for the keg, let's say. But in a second, I'll show you guys. Let me just see if there's any questions in the chat here. I don't think so. Awesome. So Chat GPT, let me screen share this. So let's say you're like, oh, I want to make a post about real estate there, but I want to get some leads for some wholesales, but I don't know what to write. So again, we're going to pick one client avatar. Let's say it's a distressed landlord. So, and then we're going to pick what type of post. I like Facebook just because a lot of people, if you take a look at the distress, the 6 Ds that we talked about, it's usually older people, right? And older people tend to be on Facebook as opposed to other social medias, right? I will tell people on my social media, my Instagram, even my Snapchat, a little bit younger folks, but I frame it as that maybe they don't want to sell their house, but they know someone that does, and I'd love to give them that referral fee or put them in a contest so that they can win a referral bonus. So let's pick a distressed landlord. So I'll put write a quick Facebook post about distressed landlords and if they want to sell their property privately. Add, this is going to be important, add a CTA, which is a call to action, to text or call me at, and I'll put my phone number, if they want to sell their house fast for cash. Now let's go type it out. This number looks a little wonky, but now we'll go through it. Again, don't just copy paste this. Add your own flair. This is what's really going to teach you how to write this out, right? But it's like, hey, attention distressed landlords. Are you a landlord feeling overwhelmed by the challenges of property management? If the idea of dealing with tenants, repairs, and all the hassles has you feeling stressed, I'm here to help. If you're considering selling your property privately and want a quick, hassle-free solution, I got the perfect solution for you. My team specializes in buying houses for cash, providing you with a smooth and speedy transaction. Say goodbye to the stress and uncertainty. Let's make the selling process simple and convenient for you. Again, it's always about them. It's not about how much money you're going to make. Reach out to me at, enter number via text or call, and let's discuss how I can help you sell your house fast for cash. The property journey starts here. This one I'd probably delete, like, your property journey starts here. Not really. Like, I'm helping them get rid of the house. Turn your distress into success. We'd love to pay you fast. All right. So some ways that you got to make some changes, but this is a great way when you're feeling stuck and you're like, I don't know what type of marketing to post, let's say on Facebook there. Okay. Couple other ways that you can find more leads is you could partner up with other wholesalers. And this is called co-wholesaling, right? This is basically what I do. I'll still put out the lead generation to generate my own leads and find my own wholesales. That being said, I almost prefer to do a co-wholesale because then I only have to do half the work. So how does a co-wholesale work? What you guys can do is whenever you drive around the city and you see those "We Buy Houses for Cash" signs, I call them and then you introduce yourself not as a seller, be like, hey, I don't want to sell my house, but either as a buyer or a co-wholesaler. We'll be like, hey, how's it going? How long have you been wholesaling? Awesome. Are you interested in partnering up? Let's say you have a wholesale. I'd love to be on your buyers list and I'll help you find a buyer. If I bring a buyer and we close, is it fair that, we split the wholesale fee? Usually in the city, the wholesale fee is about 10 grand. And, if someone brings me a lead and I bring a buyer, I'll actually just take half and that's a 5K wholesale fee, right? Don't need to take the whole wholesale fee. For me, it takes a lot of work, right? I'm not going out putting letters in people's mailboxes anymore. I'm not even putting on the signs that say "We Buy Houses for Cash." That takes a lot of time. Or what I like to do is just sit at home, work on the computer, and then generate leads like that. You get the calls, handle the call, and then go through that process with that seller. Because after you connect with the seller, then you want to actually show up, set up a time where you can meet with the seller, and then you can actually see the house. I don't negotiate before I see the property. I always say it's important to see the property because that's how I actually determine, does this wholesale make sense? But it all starts with that lead generation. Okay? Because without leads, without people knowing that you're looking to buy houses privately, very difficult for people to reach out to you or for you to generate those leads so that you actually know, okay, like who's selling their house privately, right?
The knowledge I had with real estate wasn't that great, and that's when I knew I needed a mentor to guide me through the steps of minimizing my mistakes and obtaining property. It kept me accountable with the limited time I had after the long hours at work. It taught me things I wouldn't have learned without a mentor.
Thank you to Patrick. Big helped me with pretty much everything ever since I started. So big Big shout out to Patrick and Alliance.
Nice. Yeah, Nick's an action taker, so we can help guide you, but you still got to do work, and Nick is a testimonial for that.
Sure.
And thank you again, Patrick, for this program. It changed my life. It changed my mindset. It changed everything. That was the best six weeks of my life.
I just want to give a shout out to my man Patrick. Just honestly been one of the best teachers that I've ever had.
It's a very informative course. Patrick works with you one-on-one, so if there's any questions or anything you might be doubting or you're uncertain of, he'll definitely be there to help. Honestly, highly suggest this course. It's taught me a lot through my journey.